All right, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the specific tools that you can use in Fusion and what they might be used for. I'm going to be doing a little demo today of the Loft tool. Keep in mind, I am not like the best CAD designer, and you definitely don't have to be to make use of some of these tools, get projects done quicker, make your life a little bit easier. That's what they're there for. So I'm going to talk about the Loft tool today. What Loft basically does is it shows you what it does if you hover over it here and creates a transitional shape between two or more sketch profiles or planar faces. Select series of profiles, planar faces to define a shape. Select rails or a center line to guide the shapes. There's a lot of different options that you can use with this tool. I'm going to be as basic as possible here and demonstrate what you might use Loft for. And for me, one of the easiest things that I can use this tool to do is to make like a dress shape. You know, if you're wearing a dress, it's not completely, I don't know why Karma's deciding to do this now, but whatever. If you're wearing a dress, obviously it's not just completely one shape. As you turn, the dress has different fabrics in different locations. There's different bumps and areas that might be demonstrated, make it look more like a dress. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. So my first plan of action is going to be to just go ahead and create a sketch on our XY plane. And I know generally that bottom base part, if you're thinking about a character wearing a dress, that base part is kind of like a cylinder, but you also know that it's reaching different locations. It's not just a perfect circle or a perfect cylinder on that base, the very bottom of the dress that would touch the floor. So I'm going to kind of just start drawing lines in like maybe an octagon shape. And I'm not going to be super precise with this. Obviously, if you're designing something, you would have like a sketch to go off of. But I'm going to make kind of a couple weird random lines. I don't really love that. Let's undo this part here is kind of where I stopped liking it. Yeah, that's better. All right, so there we go. This is going to be the bottom part of the dress that we want to make for our character. That looks good. Now we need to define our sketch. So if you have a sketch or, you know, an idea of what you want, you know exactly how big you want this to be. That's what you should be doing. For me, I don't. I'm just going to go ahead and auto constrain. And what that's going to do is it's going to put it at exactly this location with exactly these angles and exactly the length of each of these lines. Great. That's fine for me for the purposes of what I'm doing to demonstrate this. So there we go. Go ahead and finish our sketch. We've got our base here. Now, if we imagine what a dress looks like, if we were to imagine someone in the dress, we're going to have it go up. But as it's going to go up, it's going to kind of cut in like a triangle, right? So we're going to want to do something similar, but we want it to be higher up, higher off the ground. If our ground we consider to be this base XY plane, we want our next layer of our dress to be up a little bit so that we can kind of end up getting this 3D shape that comes in to where, I guess, the waist of the character would be. So first, we need to, if we know that we want to make another sketch of the next layer of this dress and how it's going to look, how the lines are going to be, and we want it to be a little smaller, thinner than this one right here, we're going to need to construct a new offset plane. We want it to still be XY. There we go. And we want it to be, let's say, 0.5 inches so that we can make a bunch of different layers. There we go, 0.5 inches. There's our offset plane. We'll create a new sketch on top of that. And I'm just going to kind of do the same general thing. I'm going to make some interesting curves, maybe some areas that this dress is gonna be swaying. And it's gonna be a bit smaller than this base part. So I'm comfortable with that. Let's go ahead and auto constrain it because that's all I need to be concerned with right now. And if we go back to our isometric view, we see that we've got two different planes now. We've got this base part that's going to be what we're imagining to touch the floor. We've got another layer. And I'm just going to do that again. So if we have another offset plane, this time let's go 1 inch from the very base here. We're going to kind of do this in intervals of 0.5 inches. And you can also hide sketches if you don't want to see these things anymore, so you're just on the sketch plane. But I want to use this as an outline so that I can make this next layer a little bit smaller. So I'm going to do the same thing. A little bit smaller. And that looks good to me. Great. Fusion's going to have a mental breakdown. And maybe we add one. We can see it kind of like it's going to go up in kind of this triangle shape, but we're also going to be getting these interesting swaying areas. Obviously, if you were designing this like a good designer, you would probably have some actual curves, you know, maybe you would fill it out these lines a little bit so that they're not pointy, but just for the purposes of demonstrating Loft. We're not going to design a perfect dress or anything. I'm not going to be designing my wedding dress on Fusion, believe it or not. So let's do one more. This time we'll make it 1.5 inches above the origin base bottom. I don't know. And we'll make kind of one more very small section. Constrain that out. Perfect. There we go. We've got 4 layers. And we can see over here, I've got my sketches. We want to make sure that they're all defined. And we're imagining here the beautiful ball gown. It's moving as the character's moving. Whatever's happening is happening. We can also see these dots are referring to like the plane that this is being drawn on. So that we can see there are 4 different layers here. And what Loft is going to do is connect these layers to each other and allow us to create a shape to connect the layers, even though they're not exactly the same shape. So it's basically extruding, but it's following the path of the planes that you have set up for it. So if I come over here to create, we're going to go ahead and select Loft. We get this menu here. And I'm just going to be, you know, there's a guide type. You can use a center line to guide it. So you can use like this up, or you can use the rails to guide it. And you can add rails and things to this as well. But I haven't really done too much with it. So the rails is like the edge, you know, the edges of your designs, or you can use like one center line. So you can play around with that. So for profiles here, this is what I'm going to add. So I'm going to add a profile for this bottom one. It's saying it's connected here. All of the, like this entire plane is connected to each other. So that's a great profile 1. I'm going to add another one, profile 2. And as you can see, it's connecting to it now. It's figuring out how best to connect these shapes. Press the plus. We select profile 3, do the same thing, select this last one, click OK. Let's take a look at what this is. So this is what it came up with. It has kind of swept up. You can see like it kind of looks like we are spinning maybe on the dance floor, something like that. So yeah, this is what this is going to look like. And then you can play around with it, create some maybe fillet, or you know, when you make your original lines, make them a little bit more curved. It's very blocky, but this is just one way that you can use Loft to make a little bit more complex features for a character or any design that you might want to make.